Hello, everybody. So today we're going to move on and we're going to discuss lesson 9.2, relating hundreds and decimals. So yesterday we talked about tenths and 1/10, 2/10, so on. And we said that to write those in decimals, we would go 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, so on. So today we're going to add a place value digit to the right of the tenths, and that'll be the hundredths. And so on page 363, in 2008 Summer Olympic Games, the winning time in the men's 100-meter butterfly race was only 1/100th second faster than the second place time. What decimal represents this fraction of a sentence? And you can write hundredths as fractions or decimals. And so in our little box, it says circle the digits you're going to need. And so we're going to need 1/100th. And our question is to write, or what decimal represents that 1/100th. So if we're going to use a model, we'd have this block of 100, and we'd only shade one little box. 1/100th means 1 out of 100 parts, and so that's 100th. And so as a fraction, it would be 1 over 100. We read it as 100th. If we look at the place value chart, 1/100th is named 100th. So we called, when we read the fraction, we said hundredth. So that tells us what place value the numerator is in. So the numerator is in the hundredth place, so we just write 1. So the decimal value is 0.1. Okay, I want to point something out. Point 1, 1/10, does not equal 100th. Okay, so to show the difference, the 0 on the number on the right is in the tenths place, and then the 1 is in the hundredths place, and we read that as 100th. So they are not the same thing. Okay, so let's be careful with our place value. All right, we could also use a number line, and we could name the number line. Sorry about that. Label the number line with equivalent decimals. Locate the point 1/100th. And 100th. That would be right here. So we have 100 parts. Each of the longer lines are hundredths. Sorry, 10 hundredths. So 0 hundredths, 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths. So they're multiples of 10 hundredths each line. The little spaces in between would be 1/100th, 2/100th, 3/100th, 4/100th, 5/100th, so on. Okay, and so there's 10 lines between the 0 and the 10. Between 10 and 20, there's 10 little lines. All right, so 10 hundredths. Blank means the same amount as 1/100th, and we're going to write 0.01. Okay, so you see that written here. So 0, then we have 1/10, which is equivalent to 10/100ths. 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths, 40 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 70 hundredths, 80 hundredths, 90 hundredths. So when we're looking here, only up to 9/100ths do we need to put a 0 in front. Because after that, it becomes 10/100ths or greater. And so once I get to 10/100ths, I start writing 0.10. Then the next one, if I would go to 11/100ths, it would be 0.11, then 0.12, so on. When I get to 20/100ths, that's the same as 2/10ths, and 2/10ths would be written as just 0.2. And if we call it hundredths, we would make it a 20/100ths. The next one would be 21/100ths, 0.21. So the winning time was 1/100th second faster, 0.01 second faster, because it told us to write it in decimal form. All right, 364. Alicia won her 400-meter freestyle race by 4 and 25/100th seconds. How can you write this mixed number as a decimal? Okay, so you'll notice that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of hundredths or 100 blocks. The 4 means 4 of them are completely filled. And then we have 25 out of the next 25/100ths. Each column is 10, so 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we have 25. So if I look at my place value chart, they told us to write 4 and 25/100ths. So 4.25. So that would be the mixed number form. And as a decimal, there were 4 ones, 25/100ths. 4 25/100ths, and we're going to read that as 4 and 25/100ths. Remember, it's equivalent to the fraction value, so it's read the same exact way. All right, so now let's look at the other way with a number line. And so we could label the number line with equivalent mixed numbers and decimals. So you'll notice here that we're starting at 4 on our number line, and we go to 5. In between 4 and 5 are 100 lines. Every longer line represents a multiple of 10/100ths. So 4.10, 4 and 10/100ths, 4 and 20/100ths, 4 and 30/100ths, 4 and 40/100ths, 4 and 50/100ths. A little bit of a delay right now. 4 and 60/100ths, 4 and 70/100ths, 4 and 80/100ths, 4 and 90/100ths, and then it would be 4 and 100/100ths, which we wouldn't say. We just go ahead and change the 100/100ths to an additional whole number. So we have 5. All right, so on this number line, 4 and 25 hundredths would be in between 4 and 20 hundredths and 4 and 30 hundredths. Right there. And so what is the decimal value? 4 and 25 hundredths. So she won her race by 4 and 25 100th seconds. Number 1. Change the model to show 31 hundredths and write the amount as a decimal. All right, well, so how can we show 31 hundredths? Remember, there's 100 squares here. So I'm going to have 3 full rows or columns, 31. All right, so the model shows me 31 hundredths. I don't have any ones because this is the only block of hundreds I have, and it's not completely filled. So there are no ones, and it's 31 hundredths. Number 2, write the fraction or mixed number and the decimal shown by the model. All right, so we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 68. 68 100ths. So we have 0 ones, and we have 68 hundredths. On a place value chart, it had 0 ones and 68 hundredths. Okay, number 3, we have 8. Okay, because again, each column has 10. So there's 2 missing. That's got to be 8 100ths. Okay, so we have 0 hundredths. I'm sorry, 0 ones, 8 hundredths. So the 8 has to be in the hundredths place. Okay, I didn't say 80 hundredths. I said 8 hundredths. Like here, we said 25 hundredths. The 5 was in the hundredths place. 68, the 8 was in the hundredths place. Here, the 8 is in the hundredths place. So what do I put here for the tenths? A 0. Okay, there are no tenths in that problem. If there was a tenth, the value would be at least 18 hundredths. Okay, so anything less than 10 hundredths would be written 0.0 something. All right, so 0.08, 0 and 8 hundredths. Number 4. All right, so again, each of the longer lines is a multiple of 10 hundredths. If this is 0 100ths, then this next one has to be 6 and 10 100ths. How do I know it's 6? Because it starts with 6 here. All right, so 6 and 10 100ths, 6 and 20 100ths, 6 and 30 100ths, 6 and 40 100ths. You don't have to necessarily keep going because the part I'm looking for is right here. But it's good practice just to be able to write these. So 6 and 60 100ths, 6 and 70 100ths, 6 and 80 100ths, 6 and 90 100ths. Okay, so now, if this line is 6 and 20 100ths, I want this number right to the left. Well, what's 100th less than 20? 19. So write the fraction or mixed number and the decimal. So 6 and 19 hundredths. 6 and 19 hundredths. So we have 6 wholes. That's where we get the 6 and. The decimal point represents the word and. 6 and 19 hundredths. 6.19. Number 5. Write the fraction or mixed number in the decimal shown by the model. All right, so here we have 1 whole, and we have 73. No, we don't. 83. Sorry. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 83 hundredths. So we have 1 and 83 100ths. Okay, so how do we write that as a decimal? We have 1 whole and 83 hundredths, 1.83. Number 6, we have less than 1 whole, and we have 75. 75 hundredths. 75 hundredths. So we have 0 ones, 75 hundredths. 0.75. All right, number 7. So again, we know that each of the larger lines is a multiple of 10 hundredths. So 10 hundredths, 20 hundredths, 30 hundredths, 40 hundredths, 50 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 70 hundredths, 80 hundredths, 90 hundredths. All right, and so we want this decimal right there. That fraction and decimal right there. Well, so on 50, I'm going to go backwards. 50, 49, 48, 47. So that location is 47 100ths. 47 hundredths, 0.47. So 9 hundredths. I find it easier to use the place value chart than the number line, just for sake of time. It takes a long time to write 100 lines. Okay, so I'm going to use the place value chart, and the first one said 9 hundredths. So 9 was the last thing I said, so it goes there. There was only 9. How do we write 9? 0, 9. And there were no whole numbers. So 9 hundredths is written as 0.09. 4 and 55 100ths. So this time we have 4 ones and 55 hundredths. So 4.55. 10 100ths. 10 100ths. We have no ones. 10 hundredths. Okay. If I will put the 1 in the hundredths place, that would be 1 hundredths. I needed to say 10 hundredths. So 0.10. 9 and 33 hundredths. So 9 wholes and 33 hundredths. 9.33. 92 hundredths. 92 hundredths. There are no ones. And there's 92 hundredths. And the last one, 13 I mean, we have 14 and 16 100ths. So this one, we're just looking at the whole place value chart. We would notice that we have 1/10, 4 ones, 1/10, and 6 hundredths. So read together, that's 14 and 16 hundredths. So you read the whole number, use the decimal as and, read the number to the right of the decimal with its place value. So the last digit I have in a place value is the 6, which is in the hundredths place. So I'm going to finish by saying 16 hundredths. So I'll write 14.16. At 366, number 14. Shade the grids to show 3 different ways to represent 16 100ths using models. Well, you just need 16 shaded out of the 100. 3 different ways. Okay, so there's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's one way. 16. 4, 8, 12, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16. So these are all 16 100ths. Okay. So there's no right or wrong way to shade in 16 out of 100. So just do 3 different ways. All right, 15. Describe how 1 whole, 1/10, and 100th are related. Okay, 1 whole is 10 times as much as 1/10, and 1/10 is 10 times as much as 100th. Okay, so if we look here, if I can look at this number line. So when we go to 1, okay, here's 1. How many tenths are in there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 tenths equals 100. How many times bigger is a tenth than 100th? Well, it would take me 10 100ths to equal 1/10. 16. Shade the model to show 1/24 100ths. Then write the mixed number in decimal form. All right, so 1 means the whole square is shaded, all 100 parts. And the next one would be 24. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 1 and 24 100ths. So we know that that's 1, 1, 24 hundredths, 1.24. And 17. The Memorial Library is 3/10 mile from school. Whose statement makes sense? Whose statement is nonsense? Explain your reasoning. So Gabe said he was going to walk 3/10 mile to the Memorial Library after school. Now, that's how I read the question, so I'm thinking Gabe is right. Tara said she was going to walk 3 miles. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's take Tara's first. Tara's statement is nonsense. In the number written 0.3, there are no ones. So 3 miles is not a possible answer. Okay? If it was 3, the 3 would have to be to the left of the decimal point. So Gabe's answer or statement makes sense. Gabe's statement makes sense. 0.3 is written as 3/10 as a fraction, and so it's read 3/10. So his statement makes sense. All right, so until our next lesson, we're going to be talking about equivalent fractions and decimals in lesson 9.3. But until then, may the numbers always be in your favor.